Unexpectedly transformed, single dad janitor reveals amazing connection with CEO crying alone. John wiped the sweat from his brow, the fluorescent lights reflecting off the freshly mopped floors. He hadn't even taken a sip of coffee yet, but even before dawn, his thoughts were consumed by Emma. The sound of her soft breathing in their small, cluttered apartment always pulled him from the depths of his exhaustion. Every day felt like a relentless cycle of sweeping, scrubbing, and racing against time. Just a janitor in a top-tier corporate office, he felt invisible, but in his heart, he clung to the hope that the paycheck would stretch enough for Emma to have a birthday party someday. But the gnawing feeling of inadequacy hurt more than any physical labor could. Despite his dedication, every time he looked in the mirror before heading out, he saw a worn-out figure, questioning if he was doing enough. A tangle of emotions pressed atop his chest like an anvil: fear, desperation, and a determination to provide. What if he failed? What if tonight, as he wiped down those glossy surfaces, he would be cleaning out his locker instead? The clock read past 10 when he found himself trailing the empty halls, the monumental silence only punctuated by the rhythmic swish of his mop. Flashes of light from Sarah's glass-enclosed office drew him in, muffled sobs filtering through the sleek barriers. Normally, he would have slipped by, but a voice within urged him forward. Tentatively, he knocked on the glass, pushing the door open when he saw her tormented features. "Are you okay?" he asked, surprising himself with a confidence he rarely felt. Her eyes, red and swollen, met his. There was a vulnerability that struck a chord deep within him. He wasn't just a janitor, he was a father, and somehow that maternal instinct kicked in. Rather than slipping back into shadows, he stepped closer, assuming the role of a listener. As Sarah confided in him about her burdens of expectations, John offered his own story, a tapestry of struggles woven with late-night tears and laughter over shared pizza dinners with Emma, trying to salvage fleeting moments of joy in their chaotic lives. Over days and nights, an unlikely friendship began to take root. John shared snippets of his life and parenting journeys, while Sarah shed her corporate armor, revealing her own vulnerabilities. The transformation was subtle but forceful. Together they edged further down the rabbit hole of understanding. Until one night, a nagging worry crept into John's bones. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." With a racing mind and uneven breaths, John confronted Sarah, his heart pulsing with urgency. "Your new initiatives, they could lead to layoffs. You know that, right? Your decisions could cost jobs, my job." The silence that followed felt like a chasm, their friendship suddenly faltering in the weight of this revelation. He saw the conflict in her eyes, a struggle between ambition and compassion. In that moment, he was not merely an invisible janitor but a man fighting for his family, for others like him caught in the web of corporate decisions. As their gazes locked, tension filled the room. The stakes were impossibly high. Would she listen, or was she too entrapped in the vicious cycle of profit and loss? John's voice reverberated in the air, the future of their lives hanging in the balance, remnants of doubt creeping back in. What if she chose the bottom line over humanity? And as John waited for her response, fear clawed at him, leaving him in a place of uncertainty. The stillness stretched painfully long. John felt time holding its breath, a palpable tension that wrapped around the both of them. Sarah's expression shifted, the sparkle of ambition fading as her gaze fell to the paper-strewn desk. It was a reflection he recognized in himself, caught between dreams and harsh realities. "John," she finally breathed, her voice strained yet tinged with regret. "I have to make tough calls. You know how this works." There it was, the corporate jargon that felt like a blade between them. It wasn't just a job for John, it was survival. The weight of her position loomed over him, trapping him in the very moment that could redefine their relationship. Gone was the connection built on shared stories. Now it was a matter of choice. He needed her to hear him, not just as another employee but as someone who fought each day to secure a future for a child who depended on him. "Please," John said, desperation creeping into his voice. "Think about us. There are lives at stake. Every decision you make reflects the people underneath you. I may be just a janitor, but I have a daughter. Her world revolves around the love I give her, the small things, like a birthday celebration." He could see her fighting an internal battle. The look on her face was a mix of empathy and fear, as though she was aware of the precipice that loomed before them. John's heart raced, fueling the fire within him. He had to break through this distance. "Those spreadsheets are just numbers," he continued, driven by a renewed resolve. "Behind them are human beings. Don't let that slip away. I refuse to be just another statistic. Not for me, not for Emma." That struck a chord. He saw the flicker of understanding ignite in her eyes, the unseen thread of connection tightening between them. Sarah, the powerful CEO, was slowly becoming not just a boss but a partner in empathy. In the following days, a shift began to surface. Sarah sought him out more frequently, asking him for insights on how the company's culture resonated with the employees below. John couldn't believe it. His observations were valued. Each coffee break morphed into a brainstorming session where he shared ideas that brewed not only from his struggles but from plans of hope, however modest they may seem. "Have you ever thought about developing a mentorship program?" he suggested one morning, his voice catching the flow of her enthusiasm as they discussed business strategies over steaming cups. "Building connections could enhance morale, and true engagement comes from understanding each other." She paused, the gears visibly turning in her mind. "John, that's insightful. Imagine how motivated the team would feel if they knew the leadership cared about their personal growth." Her appreciation made him feel seen, igniting something within him, an ember of self-worth he'd buried beneath layers of doubt. For the first time, as they collaborated, he realized he was more than a janitor. Ideas were pouring out, and he didn't shy away from injecting his voice into the commercial arena he once thought was unreachable. Yet, remnants of fear lingered around each corner. Could it lead to change, or was he on borrowed time before the corporate wolves returned to claim their sacrifice? As the discussions grew deeper, so did the anxiety. One evening, after a particularly fruitful meeting, John stood alone in the empty hallway, staring at the polished floors. He was grappling with the thought of rising through the ranks. Each possibility felt potent yet daunting. What would happen if he dared to aspire higher? Would he lose the fragile friendship he had built with Sarah in the process? As he mulled over his options, he knew he reached a crossroads. He could continue in his role, playing it safe, or risk stepping out into the unknown, embracing the potential change he could advocate for while challenging Sarah from within. He took a deep breath, determination swirling in his chest. The time had come to face his own fears, not just for his daughter's future but for his own spirit. That night, as the mop swished across the smooth tiles, John's thoughts turned to action. It would be a leap, but a leap worth taking for the sake of his daughter, for something greater. But as John turned to exit the building, a familiar voice echoed down the hallway, one he hadn't anticipated, one that promised to further complicate his burgeoning relationship with Sarah. "John, can we talk about your future?" His heart raced. What offer lay ahead, and was he ready to seize it? The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as John stood, frozen in place, processing Sarah's unexpected request. The emptiness of the hallway magnified the weight of her words, and he could feel the thrum of anxiety mixed with a stray thread of exhilaration running through his veins. What did she want to discuss? The future usually meant change. Change often meant danger. "Sure, Sarah. What's on your mind?" His voice trembled slightly, betraying the steadiness he wanted to present. "Let us sit down," she suggested, her tone more composed. They settled at a nearby conference table, the tension hanging like curtains between them. "John," she began, her eyes searching his for recognition, "considering our recent discussions and the insights you've shared, I believe you're capable of much more than just maintenance work. You understand the pulse of our company. I want to promote engagement and growth among our employees, and I need someone who can help steer that initiative." Her words wrapped around him like a warm blanket, yet prickled at edges of disbelief. Could she genuinely be talking about him? He had been invisible to most here, a shadow, a hand that kept the company moving behind the scenes. "I want to offer you a position on our people development team. It's a significant leap, but I see the potential in you," she continued, her voice steady. "This could be your chance to get involved in creating a mentorship program, just like you suggested." John's mind raced, flooded with implications. This position felt like an impossible dream, a stark contrast to the reality he knew, where he scrubbed floors and took out the trash. "Sarah," he said cautiously, "I'm flattered, but I don't have the qualifications. I've been a janitor. That's who I am." The doubt poured from him, as though it could wash away the very opportunity resting between them. "Not anymore," she challenged gently, leaning into him with confidence that forced him to confront his own fears. "You've demonstrated tangible insight into our culture and values. I see someone who engages deeply, John. You have lived experiences that can enact real change. It's not the title that defines a person, it's how they wield their influence." As her words landed, the flicker of his self-doubt began to smolder. The veil obscuring his options lifted just a fraction. What if he could take this step? What if he could be more? The thought was exhilarating, yet it coiled back into fear. "Do you really believe I could do this?" he asked, his vulnerability spilling out. "I do," she assured him. "But you have to believe it as well." John's thoughts spiraled. Here he was, at a crossroads made tangible by her faith in him. It was more than a job, it carried the weight of his future, and Emma's future. "What happens if it doesn't work out?" he pressed. "If I'm unqualified or I fail?" "Every path is uncertain, John." She leaned in, her intensity mingling with comfort. "Success and failure are merely steps in the journey. You'll never know if you don't leap." At that moment, John understood that this was not just about professional advancement, but also a personal reckoning with his own worth. The accumulation of years spent doubting himself, suffocated by the mundanity of his job, weighed heavily upon him. Could he finally detach from that identity and embrace something challenging? Yes, he conceded slowly. Realization dawned. "I want to try. I have to try." "Then let us set up a plan," Sarah smiled, relief flooding her expression. Her faith bolstered his resolve. As they dissected the mechanics of his new role, John's heart thrummed in harmonious rhythm with hope, a rare feeling, almost foreign. Could this be a turning point for him? The possibility wrapped around him, shaking off the heavy past. But even in this moment of clarity, doubt nestled in his heart like a persistent shadow. What about the responsibilities he held as a father? Would his new commitment to this role take away from his time with Emma? John felt the push and pull of ambition and obligation surge through him. He was ready to step forward, yet familiar fears lurked just beneath the surface. As they wrapped up their conversation, Sarah's last words echoed in his mind: "You'll need persistence, but I believe in your capability to inspire change." Yet another voice broke his thoughts, a familiar call from Emma, just as he reached for the exit. Would risking everything for a future he'd never envisioned simultaneously diminish the love he had struggled to protect? In that moment of departure lingered an unsettling truth. The choice before him burgeoned with ambition, yet threatened the fragile balance of his life. Would John become the father he aimed to be while embracing the man his potential could reveal? And as he turned to leave, the shadows of self-doubt loomed larger than ever. What journey lay ahead, and was he truly prepared for the sacrifices it might demand? John stepped into the small, cluttered office that had been his sanctuary for years. As the door creaked behind him, he was enveloped by the familiar scent of industrial cleaning products and the faint hum of machinery grumbling in the distance. This was the place where he had found solace in the rhythm of sweeping floors and tidying desks, an existence defined by routine. But today, the walls that once felt comforting now seemed to morph into a cage. He settled into his worn chair, but his mind was far from settling. Sarah's proposition stirred a tempest inside him. His pulse quickened as he replayed her words: each syllable piercing through the cobwebs of self-doubt. "You are capable of much more than just maintenance work." The thought flickered in his mind like a flame, urging him to ignite something deep within. But what if he did fail? The pitfalls of his past buzzed in his ear like stubborn flies, reminding him of missed opportunities and lingering regret. He stared out the dusty window, watching the world rush by, each passerby a reminder of the vibrant life he had almost lived. The fear of failure constricted his throat. He was a father, after all. His decisions affected Emma, and the weight of that responsibility pressed heavily on his chest. Tomorrow marked the start of a new chapter, and with it, the blink of an eye toward the collaborative projects Sarah envisioned. But what did he really have to offer? The nagging voice inside him echoed relentless reminders. He was just a janitor, uneducated and unnoticed, a mere shadow in the corporate eyes. Yet as he made plans for the next day's tasks, a small seed of courage burrowed deeper into his psyche. Maybe this was an opportunity to rise above that title he had worn for too long. The mentorship program Sarah mentioned, a chance to share his experience, to inspire others. He closed his eyes, imagining flipping the script on his life story. For years, he had treated his role in the company simply as a job, a position that kept him out of the spotlight and far away from judgment. Could he step into the light and own an influence? That evening, as he tucked Emma into bed, her sleepy eyes twinkling with dreams, another wave of doubt washed over him. Would he still have time to be the father she needed if he threw himself into this new position? His heart ached at the thought of missing moments, yet an ember of ambition flickered within him, beckoning him not to forsake his potential. "Daddy?" Emma's small voice broke through his thoughts, pulling him back to the present. "Will you read me a story?" He slid onto her bed, determination mingled with tenderness lighting his resolve. As he read, the words washed over him and planted a promise in his heart. Being a father could coexist with ambition. He could forge a new path that embraced both roles. But as he finished the story, he couldn't shake the gnawing uncertainty that remained. He would have to confront the challenges of balancing work and family with every decision he made. Would that struggle forge a stronger bond with Emma, or would it fracture the connection they had built? Tucking her in, he vowed silently to be more than just the janitor, to evolve into a figure of strength for Emma to admire, possessed of determination, authenticity, and vision. Yet the gnawing questions lingered like shadows, whispering fears of inadequacy and the risk of falling short. He found himself standing at the crossroads again, the dualities of ambition and obligation continuing to wrestle within him. Each choice before him felt muffled under the weight of expectation, swelling into something larger than his fear. And as he settled into his own thoughts, a chilling realization crept at the edges of his consciousness. He was about to embark on a journey that would test his values, challenge his perceptions of self-worth, and ultimately define his destiny. Would he summon the courage to rise above and claim this new identity? Would the lessons learned along the way seal the fracture between his ambitions and his role as a father, or force them further apart? With these questions echoing in the silence of the night, John looked out into the darkened sky, uncertain if he was ready to face what lay ahead. And with the dawn approaching, the time for decisions loomed impatiently in the shadows. What awaited him the next day in the office, and how would his journey of self-discovery truly unfold? As dawn broke, John's heart raced at the prospect of his first day facing Sarah's vision head-on. He stared at himself in the bathroom mirror, the reflection revealing a weary face marked by years of silence and compliance. How often had he hidden behind the threshold, dismissing his potential as just a fleeting thought? But today was different. He felt a pulse of possibility coursing through him. If he didn't take this leap, when would he? Stepping out of his home, he breathed in the crisp morning air, each inhalation edging out the doubts from the recesses of his mind. Emma still slumbered peacefully, and for a fleeting moment, he imagined how proud she might be if he succeeded. But those fleeting thoughts of pride were intercut with fear that he might achieve nothing, let alone claim the role that Sarah had opened for him. Arriving at the office, he was struck by the bustling energy around him. Colleagues greeted one another with bright smiles and aspirational banter, a stark contrast to his usual quiet existence sweeping floors. It felt like stepping onto a stage for the first time, the spotlight casting shadows he could not hide from. As he approached Sarah's office, John hesitated at the entrance, trying to shake off the wave of anxiety that twisted his stomach. He needed to present his ideas clearly, to convey passion amidst the sea of doubt threatening to drown him in indecision. What if they see just a janitor and not a leader? He thought, the fears gnawing at his resolve. John! Sarah called, her voice a warm invitation, pulling him from his thoughts. The openness in her expression gave him hope, a fleeting acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, he belonged here. Morning, Sarah, he replied, forcing a smile despite the internal turmoil. Ready to share your insights? She asked, her enthusiasm bouncing off the walls. He nodded, heart pounding. Maybe today wasn't about being perfect but about being authentic. I've thought about how our maintenance team can present their experiences during the upcoming project, he began, surprising himself with confidence. We could host feedback sessions, gathering insights from the ground level to improve overall efficiency. Everyone's perspectives matter. As he spoke, he watched Sarah's eyes light up. That's brilliant, John. Empowering the team creates a culture of inclusion. You have such a unique perspective, it's more than just maintenance. A subtle shift happened within him as he grasped this new energy. Recognition flickered, replacing shadows of self-doubt with sparks of validation. Each word he spoke not only laid the groundwork for his ideas but also wove himself into the fabric of the company culture. But just as the conversation deepened, an unsolicited thought gnawed at his resolve. Had he offered more than he could deliver? Could he really influence change amidst such seasoned professionals? He clenched his fists, forcing himself to focus. He needed to drive the momentum he had begun. After the strategy session wrapped, colleagues began to filter out of the meeting room, their nods and whispered praises urging him toward a new self-image. Yet he realized the deeper battle still lay ahead, a battle against the ingrained thoughts that insisted he would always be just a janitor. That evening, as he returned home, excitement mingled with trepidation. He needed to negotiate time differently, prioritizing the growth he aspired to during the day while still being the father Emma deserved at night. As he tucked Emma into bed, he found himself narrating his day with the same enthusiasm he had felt while sharing ideas with Sarah. I'm part of something bigger now, he confided, searching her eyes for understanding. Will you be gone a lot? She asked, concern shadowing her innocent face. I'll always find time for you, he assured, feeling a tug at his heart. But would it be enough? Balancing this newfound ambition with his fatherly duties felt like walking a tightrope. And as he turned off the light, determination mingled with anxiety. His journey had begun, one that demanded both growth and sacrifice. But another truth loomed on the horizon, one John could not foresee. In the pursuit of becoming more, would he inadvertently distance himself from all the things he cherished the most? With hope and uncertainty intertwined, he lay awake, dreams lighting the corners of his mind. With every moment of reflection he pondered what the next day would bring, and how much the days ahead would ask of him. Would he rise to meet them, or would he falter under the weight of his own expectations? Uncertainty flickered like the shadows in his room, lingering with a question that seemed to echo against the walls. What must he confront next to truly transform? The morning light filtered through the blinds, creating streaks of gold across John's face. His first instinct was to reach for his phone, checking the time with a blend of eagerness and dread. Today was no ordinary day. He had to present his ideas on team empowerment to the entire leadership panel. He could almost hear the ticking clock in his mind, a constant reminder of the pressure he felt. As he prepared for the day, John rummaged through his closet, searching for something that would represent change. He settled on a clean button-up shirt, a small yet significant departure from his usual attire. In that moment, he was setting the stage for a transformation he hoped would resonate beyond the fabric of his clothes. This was not merely an outfit, it was armor for the warrior he intended to be. Arriving at the office, John noticed the same buzz of energy that had invigorated him the previous day. Yet now, he felt more like an intruder in a world he had not earned the right to occupy. Even as colleagues exchanged remarks and laughter, he fought against the imposter syndrome creeping into his thoughts, whispering reminders of his past. With each step toward the conference room, John's pulse quickened. The large glass doors felt like a gateway to a new reality, one that intimidated him as much as it excited him. He wanted to share his vision and confront the remnants of his old identity. That nagging sense of inferiority paraded around in his mind, invoking the familiar belief that he was just a janitor, a notion he had vowed to dismantle. Finally, he entered the room. The leadership team was seated around a sleek mahogany table, an array of experienced professionals ready to dissect his ideas. John inhaled deeply, steadying himself. "This is your moment," he thought, taking the small podium at the front. He started with a slight quiver in his voice. "Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present my ideas today. It's not just about maintenance, it's about collaboration and inclusion." As he spoke, he noticed Sarah nodding, urging him to continue. With each sentence, he found his footing, weaving his narrative of empowerment. He spoke passionately about creating feedback loops, how frontline employees had insights that could streamline operations and foster inclusivity. Yet, just when momentum surged, an unexpected question came from one of the senior executives. "John, your proposal is intriguing, but what makes you think that the maintenance team can drive such change? Isn't that a bit ambitious?" A wave of heat flooded through him, a familiar frustration rising. Did they not see the value in the perspectives of those who kept the company running day in and day out? This was precisely the moment he had feared, where his worth would be questioned, validating his long-held fears of being just a janitor. Instead of recoiling, however, something within him shifted. "It may sound ambitious," he replied, steady despite the tremor in his heart. "But if we empower those voices, the ones who work with the machines and the systems every day, how can we not innovate? They hold the key to our efficiency." The room fell silent, thoughtful. In that brief pause, John realized that in this confrontation lay his power. He was no longer just fearing rejection but challenging the status quo. After the meeting concluded, John sensed the tide turning. Colleagues approached him with nods of appreciation, an acknowledgement that stirred something deep within. He had faced that intimidating room, showcasing his ability to connect his past as a janitor to a more inclusive future. Returning home, he watched Emma as she scribbled on her notepad, her brow furrowing in concentration. The initial thrill of the day faded, replaced by an overwhelming desire to reclaim precious moments with her. He remembered his promise to always find time for her, yet the question lingered hauntingly. Was he losing himself to ambition at the expense of his role as a father? That night, as Emma fell asleep, John contemplated his evolving identity. He felt a burgeoning sense of self-worth, yet was aware of the distance growing between him and the simple joys of fatherhood. And as he turned off the light, a thought lingered like an unwelcome specter. The more he achieved, would the space he created between himself and the life he cherished remain bridgeable? The anxiety of that question kept his mind racing, leaving him once again in limbo. Tomorrow would test not just his professional resolve but challenge the very core of his personal convictions. Would he remain true to himself and those he loved, or lose his way in the quest to redefine his identity? Morning arrived, draping a shroud of quiet over John's thoughts. He stared at the ceiling, the glow of the sun depicting shadows that mirrored his unsettled mind. The weight of yesterday's presentation lingered, each success mingled with the realization that the next day loomed heavy with expectation. As he stretched, he felt the remnants of confidence interlaced with doubts about his abilities and his role as a father. After preparing his morning coffee black and steaming, bitter yet invigorating, he picked up his phone. An email from Sarah flashed across the screen and for a moment he felt a flush of hope. "Follow-up meeting?" he murmured. He allowed himself a small smile, believing that it signaled a renewed interest in his ideas. Yet the nagging voice in the back of his mind whispered uncertainty. Was it merely a polite acknowledgement, or genuine enthusiasm? By the time he arrived at the office, the vibrant hustle of the day was apparent. Colleagues exchanged cheerful banter in quick, purposeful strides. A surge of anticipation pushed him toward his desk, yet the sense of being an outsider clung stubbornly. Standing in the shadows of his peers, he felt the tension rising. The follow-up meeting was deemed informal but pivotal. As he took his seat, the atmosphere was charged with expectation and a hint of skepticism. The very same executive who had questioned his proposal now had his arms crossed tightly. How could he break down those barriers when he felt like he was continually building himself up? Today, he began, I want to dive deeper into how we can create a culture of trust within our teams. Trust isn't built from titles or positions, it grows from understanding what every individual brings to the table. He noticed heads nodding but couldn't shake the pervasive fear of insignificance lurking behind his words. With each new point he raised, his internal dialogue transformed from self-doubt to determination. The reactions of his peers, some engaged, others skeptical, prompted an internal reckoning, to challenge their perception of him further. What if we set up regular check-ins where maintenance staff can share insights directly with leadership? It breaks down barriers and builds accountability. A flurry of discussions arose, both supportive and skeptical. Faces turned alive with debate. John felt a fire igniting inside. He dared to voice concerns about distrust within the hierarchy and how it stifled progress. In moments of uncertainty, he drew from that foundational experience of working among the machines and tools. Think about it, he urged. Empowerment is not just a management buzzword, it's an actionable belief in those who are closest to the work. Each night we clean up after a chaotic day, and yet we have innovative minds that need to be listened to. Suddenly, the executive who challenged him previously leaned in. You really believe that, don't you? Empowering the maintenance team will lead to innovative solutions. What if it backfires? John's heart raced, but he wasn't shaken. What if it doesn't? Came his immediate reply, voice firm but hopeful. Isn't that worth the risk? If a child can suggest a change in the way a game is played, why can't an employee suggest how we streamline a bottleneck task? The dialogue flowed, the tension in the room shifting towards curiosity and speculation. John realized he was engaging more with the executives than he ever anticipated. They were no longer distant authority figures but potential allies in a shared vision for the company's future. He continued pushing, challenging his colleagues' preconceived notions about their roles not just as people in titles, but as catalysts for change. A sense of purpose enveloped him, empowering both his professional ambitions and personal resolve. As the meeting wound down, he felt energized. Yet, amidst this triumph, the heart-wrenching dilemma surfaced again. Was the time he was spending here, fighting for recognition and opportunity, taking away from moments he should be spending with Emma? Would his ambition pull him away from the very identity he fought to maintain? Leaving the meeting, John felt hopeful yet torn. His goal to redefine his identity perched on a precarious ledge. Would the relationships he forged at work come to mean as much as the small but irreplaceable moments he shared with his daughter? That evening, as he walked through the door, Emma looked up, her innocent eyes sparkling. Did you win, Dad? She asked, her voice filled with hope. He knelt down, heart heavy, wanting nothing more than to declare victory. But before he could answer, the ringing of his phone shattered the moment, revealing Sarah's number flashing on the screen. A wave of unexpected anxiety washed over him. What could she want? The stakes had just risen. The time had come to face the potential repercussions of his ambitions head-on. Would this call unveil a new opportunity, or would it plunge him deeper into conflict? John's hand hesitated over the phone, the vibrant tones of Emma's laughter competing with the urgent, yet ominous ringtone. He felt a ripple of dread pulse through him as he answered, Sarah, what's going on? John, her tone was steady but laced with urgency. I wanted to discuss the ideas you proposed in the meeting. I think we have a real chance here. The words ignited a flicker of optimism deep within him, an affirmation of his recent advocacy efforts. Really? He stammered, both hopeful and anxious. Yes, but I need you to understand that some executives are still skeptical. They want tangible results. I believe you have the vision, but you need to prepare for the pushback. As she spoke, John felt a distinct change wash over him. The impending pressure was daunting. He was ready to rise to the challenge. After hanging up, he reflected on her words. Each idea he had shared was intertwined with a personal mission to connect with others, not just as a worker in a uniform, but as a pivotal force for innovation. If faced with skepticism, he resolved to counter it with facts that resonated with every person in the room, painting a vision where every voice mattered. That night, as he spread his documents across the kitchen table, he felt Emma's warmth radiate beside him. She watched curiously as he scribbled notes. "What are you doing, Dad?" "Just planning how to make something special happen at work, sweetheart," he replied, trembling on the edge of inspiration. Emma's eyes sparkled with admiration. It stirred something inside him, a reminder that she was tracking his every move, learning from him. "All these words," she said. "They don't sound fun." "It's about making fun, Emma. I need to figure out how to make work a better place for everyone," he explained, the resolve deepening in his voice. He paused, revisiting the idea of trust. "If I succeed, they can see how important everyone's ideas are. Just like how you share your thoughts about playing games. Your voice matters." Her innocent smile fueled a newfound determination. He wanted to mirror her joy in the serious world he navigated daily, and in doing so, he envisioned a setting where each participant felt valued. He spent hours dissecting every suggestion he had proposed, strategizing how to transform abstract notions into actionable steps that could prove their worth. Days turned into nights as he practiced articulating these ideas with clarity, erasing doubts that plagued him during previous meetings. But with each rehearsal, a question haunted him: would pursuing this professional goal erode his bond with Emma? Finally, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the evening sky, he decided it was time to verbalize his convictions at the next meeting. His commitment to empowerment surged. He was ready to evolve from hesitant participant to assertive advocate. As he stepped into the meeting room again, the air thrummed with anticipation. Each executive sat, poised for debate. Their crossed arms felt like a challenge, spurring him on. "I'm here to push the conversation forward," he declared, feeling a surge flood through him. Trust and accountability do not stem from fear, but from awareness and cooperation. Concerned glances met with impatience, but he didn't falter. "To empower our teams, we must embrace their insights. They are the bedrock of our operations, and their perspectives deserve recognition starting today." He watched them lean in, curiosity flickering in their eyes like that feeling he had watching Emma succeed. He was discovering something about himself. He was not just a janitor or a father, but a beacon capable of igniting change. Amidst the fervor of his presentation, he noticed the executive who had previously doubted him nod in contemplation, offering a flicker of respect. His heart raced at the potential shift in dynamic. As the discussion continued, John's focus wavered momentarily, an emotional tide sweeping over him. Deep down, he recognized a powerful, haunting truth: every decision he made echoed into his world, shaping both his professional ambitions and the warmth he sought to maintain with his daughter. The meeting concluded, discussion swirling like leaves in the wind, but he left not entirely satisfied. The stakes felt higher, the road unpredictable ahead. Yet just as he exhaled, a realization struck him: the next steps would require not just courage in the work environment, but also a true confrontation of his own fears about being a dad and a professional. As he stepped outside, a text from Emma pinged on his phone. "Are you coming home soon?" Suddenly, he faced a dilemma that loomed larger than any corporate presentation. What was the true cost of ambition on his relationship with her? The night grew calm around him, but the tension brewed within. How would he balance the necessity of proving himself at work while nurturing the bond with his daughter? Just then, he felt his phone buzz again. This time, it was Sarah asking to meet soon. "We need to chat about the next steps and maybe the personal cost of pushing the envelope." The invitation hung heavy in the air, inviting confrontation or opportunity. Which would it be? The fluorescent lights flickered overhead as John settled into the diner booth, its plastic upholstery sticking slightly to him, but he barely noticed. His mind raced with anticipations of his meeting with Sarah. She had always had a keen eye for talent, and her intentions felt distinct, both empowering yet daunting. Would they spend more time discussing business strategy, or would they delve into areas he wasn't ready to explore? With a cup of steaming coffee cradled in his hands, he stared at the swirling liquid, hoping to center his thoughts. He battled between fear and determination, questions circling incessantly in his mind. Could he actually sustain this momentum? There it was again, the creeping worry that ambition could consume his most precious relationship, fatherhood. "Hey there," Sarah greeted as she slid into the booth across from him. John offered a tight smile, attempting not to let the anxious tension show through. He admired Sarah's unyielding confidence. It set the perfect backdrop against the backdrop of his scrupulous insecurities. "Thanks for meeting me," he said, carefully setting down his coffee. "Not a problem at all. You've got the fire in you, John. I want to help you fan those flames." Her tone carried an authenticity that stirred a mix of hope and apprehension within him. As they began discussing the project, Sarah quickly cut to the chase. "The meeting yesterday was a turning point. I sensed a shift in the executive's climate towards your ideas. I can see you leading a team if you continue to advocate for those changes." The prospect shimmered in his mind, a daunting image of leadership laced with the heightened responsibility of influence. "But what if I fail? What if the cost is higher than expected?" His voice trembled as he confronted the specter of doubt. Each step forward felt like inching closer to a precipice he wasn't sure he wanted to leap from. "Failure is a reality we all face, John," she said, leaning in. "The true question is, what do you gain from the risk?" He mulled her words, recalling Emma's laughter that evening, her innocence a guidepost reminding him why he was even considering pushing his boundaries. His heart resonated with a strong realization perhaps leading was not just about executing ideas but fostering connections, creating an environment where voices blended together and grew stronger. "I want to inspire others," he said finally, voice steadier, "just like how Emma inspires me every day." He felt a spark of bravery ignite long-dormant aspirations within him. Then why not embrace that? Harness your role as a father as part of your professional identity. Draw strength from both spheres. "No one can lead authentically without being wholly themselves," she replied as her eyes shone with conviction. A thought settled in John's mind. If he embraced the duality of his identity, a father committed to nurturing Emma's potential and a professional willing to stand for change, he could craft something extraordinary. Real leaders, he had come to realize, possess the ability to intertwine their lives rather than compartmentalize them. "Now think ahead," Sarah urged, pulling his attention back to the table. "In 2 weeks, there's another company-wide meeting. I suggest you present a comprehensive plan that showcases how employee participation can enhance productivity. They need to see the tangible benefits of inclusivity." The prospect excited him, yet the weight of expectations stifled that excitement. Yet, a nagging voice whispered, was he truly capable of this? The meeting left him roughly 2 weeks to prepare, a span that loomed larger than life. Remembering Emma's laughter, he felt compelled to seize this chance. As he finished his coffee, he sensed an unmistakable shift, the beginnings of unity between his personal and professional paths, a connected purpose unfurling as he prepared to take action. He strode back into the world outside, feeling a sense of urgency build up within him. Suddenly his phone buzzed in his pocket, a reminder of the dual aspects of his life colliding into one. His heart jolted with anticipation, and it wasn't just the buzzing device urging him on. It was an awareness that the journey ahead would involve discomfort, yet within that discomfort lay the seeds of transformation. "John," he muttered under his breath, "this is the moment where you can either retreat or rise." He resolved to carve a path that embraced both the complexity of parenthood and the intricacies of professional development. The sky above shimmered with twilight's glow as he walked towards home, his pulse racing. Tomorrow he would need to build on this momentum. Would he face the reality of his ambition? Or would he crumble under the weight of expectations? As thoughts collided in his mind, another text flashed on his screen. It was from Emma. "Dad, can we go to the park tomorrow? Please." A smile tugged at his lips, but the question lingered, could he balance his ambition with the time his daughter deserved? The impending meeting loomed, and he understood a vital truth. The hour of decision approached, and every choice held the power to redefine his life. What direction would he choose, and how would it affect his bond with Emma? Days passed as John fully immersed himself in the challenge of crafting his comprehensive proposal for the company-wide meeting. Every decision felt monumental, yet he wrestled with the same internal disconnect he had experienced for weeks. The balance of ambition and fatherhood weighed heavily on his heart. Would he be able to handle both responsibilities without losing sight of what mattered most? As the day of the presentation approached, John found himself spending late nights sketching out ideas and plans while Emma's laughter echoed in the background. He was no longer just a janitor. He was preparing to lead, to influence positive changes within the company. However, a flicker of guilt accompanied each hour spent away from her, and he vowed to ensure that their time together would not be compromised. Finally, the morning of the meeting arrived. John stood before the mirror, adjusting his shirt, and for the first time, he saw a confident man staring back, a man ready to embrace the dual nature of his evolving identity. He felt a rush of determination swell within him. This was his moment. The air was electric with potential as he walked into the office, each step echoing possibilities. As he stepped into the conference room, he took a moment to absorb the atmosphere. The executives, once distant and intimidating, now appeared more like partners in a shared vision. John pushed the remnants of fear away and methodically recounted the journey that led him here, laying the framework for his proposal on empowering employees from the ground up. Today, I'm here to advocate for understanding that drives engagement, he asserted, confidence lacing his words. We must realize that when employees feel recognized and valued, innovation flourishes. Let us create feedback loops that connect our maintenance staff with leadership. This aligns our strategies by utilizing talents that are often overlooked. As he continued sharing his vision, the tension dissolved, metamorphosing into an engaging dialogue. He expanded on ideas initiated during brainstorming sessions with Sarah, illustrating how collaboration could lead to enhanced productivity. Colleagues nodded, their eyes lighting with curiosity. And just as he built up momentum, the skeptical executive spoke up again, challenging him. John, you're advocating for a cultural shift. How do you plan to convince senior management without quantifiable results? In that moment, John remembered Emma's innocent hope, the belief that every voice mattered. We need to measure participation and satisfaction. I propose pilot programs to gather data reflecting our progress. By exposing the advantages of trust, we can usher in a workplace culture that invites participation and inspires. The room erupted with discussions. He faced skeptical questions and lively debates, all while a zest for advocacy pulsated in his chest. The prospect of shaping an inclusive environment propelled him forward. At the conclusion of his presentation, a wave of applause broke through the room, and as he looked towards Sarah, he felt a rush of gratitude. Her unyielding belief in him had ignited a fire he never knew he possessed. Afterward, an informal discussion sprang up among the colleagues present, exchanging insights and ideas inspired by his presentation. For the first time, John felt seen not just simply as a janitor, but as a voice capable of crafting change. However, as the day wore on, a familiar pang of guilt resurfaced. Emma had occupied his thoughts extensively, and as he settled into bed that night, he vowed to prioritize their next outing. When he arrived home the following evening, John found Emma sprawled across the living room floor, a vibrant canvas of coloring papers surrounding her. The sight filled him with warmth and relief. "Hey, buddy! What's all this?" he asked, crossing the room to sit beside her. "I'm making a card for you," she chirped, eyes sparkling. "You promised to take me to the park. Is it a good card?" As she presented her creation, a collage of bright colors and messy scribbles, a tidal wave of realization washed over him. This moment of connection was as vital, if not more so, than his achievements at the office. It solidified his understanding of success. It didn't have to eclipse his role as a father. In fact, it would enhance it. With a smile stretching across his face, John knelt beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "It's the best card I've ever received," he declared, his heart swelling with pride. In that precious moment, something tangible shifted within him. Over the workdays to come, He worked not just as a janitor striving to prove his worth but as a father who would embody resilience and empowerment. Weeks later, as Emma swung higher and higher at the park, John reveled in the laughter echoing all around him. He took pride in balancing the demands of his role while forging deep connections with his colleagues, ultimately transforming his workplace into one rooted in valuing every individual's voice, the culmination of his hope blossoming into reality. As twilight cast its golden hue across the playground, John felt a surge of hope. He had conquered the elusive fear of failure and emerged stronger. His once invisible role had evolved into a beacon of change not just for himself but for all those around him. And now he understood. True success intertwined beautifully with the relationships he cherished. The ambition and love in his life could coexist, propelling him toward a future he was proud to claim. If you relate to John's story and the struggles and triumphs of balancing professional dreams with personal fulfillment, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and keep our community thriving. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformative conclusion. Comment below with your reactions and theories about John's journey and join the discussion. Let's inspire each other.